I'm so happy that I get to be here again for my second session. So, if you have already listened to my first one, I don't know, maybe you're sick of hearing me. Hopefully you learned something and you're ready to check out what I have to share in my second one. So, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Teresa Stas, and I am a sponsorship expert. I am the CEO of a agency called Cactus, and we handle sponsorship, brokering, management, and sales for events all across the U.S., but primarily the West Coast. We're based out of Oregon and California. And I also have a course called sellsponsorships.com that's used at universities as well as event professionals across the country. And my new book just came out, Sell Your Event. So this is the experience that I have, and I can't wait to share with you guys about activation. So today we're going to talk about activations and what it is to figure out how to create those, how to create them, build them, and then also how to sell them. So because if you can figure out what it is that your sponsor wants and then be able to create an activation for them and sell that, that's where the big bucks come in, you guys. So, because there's only so many places you can throw a logo up. So you got to come up with some creative and unique ways to build that money out. And the thing about activations is that although right now seems to be kind of a weird time to be talking about activations, it's really, it's one of those things that is going to be around. So even if you have to create them virtually or you have to do them in a hybrid way, understanding the fundamentals of what they are is going to make a really big difference. Plus, we're not going to be on lockdown forever. So some of this stuff, it will come back, and it's going to be really important to know. So having sort of a leg up on that and getting an understanding of it now is really important. So without further ado, I'm going to switch my screen around and share with you all my visuals. Sorry. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be one of those mornings. So hang tight with me, guys. So hold on one second while I switch my screen. Okay. All right. So you guys should be able to hear me better and see my visuals. Let's talk about creating and selling activations that sponsors love. So what are we going to cover in this? We're going to talk about understanding your sponsor's goals, because this is imperative to any sponsorship strategy. Formulating an activation strategy that drives results. And then we're going to look at ideas and case studies of activations so that I can show you some real world examples. So I always like to show where we're at in the sponsorship sales process when I'm talking about something that's not an overview of overall sponsorships. So where are we at in this? We are right here. We're at the discovery and the proposal. This is when we're going to find out what it is that our prospects are looking for. And then we're going to put together, we're going to take those goals that they give us, and we're going to put together a proposal or a strategy that we can share with them. So this is where we're at in the process. So let's just cover really quick what an activation is. Most people think of activation as being the on-site setup, which is true. That is part of the strategy. But the activation is actually the implementation of everything in that strategy. So you could consider the activation of putting a logo on a poster prior to the event. That could still be part of an activation. That's still part of the strategy. Although I will say in the event world, most of the time when someone says activation, they are referring to the on-site part of it. But in all actuality, the activation is the implementation of the full sponsorship strategy. Okay, so when we think of on-site activations, we're probably thinking of one of these two. So this one's a national one, Maui Jim here, and then this one's a regional one out of Portland. So when we think of these, we think of a sponsor calling us up, calling our event up and saying, hey, I want to
I want to buy a footprint so that I can bring in my activation. And these are some of the event's best clients. They love these kinds of sponsors because there's so very little work that they have to do. They just have to provide a footprint for them to come in and do their thing. So these are the ones that everybody wants, right? And they usually pay really well. But the issue is that there's only so many of these, and these are done on tours. And so your event may not fit what that tour is going after, which means it may limit it. And the smaller you are, the less likely you're going to get one of these kinds of activations. But it doesn't mean that you can't help those prospects and those sponsors create their own kind of activation. And they don't have to necessarily be like these fancy ones. So let's talk about how you're going to do that, because if you can figure that out, there's a lot more money out there for you to get. So the thing we have to find out first is we have to figure out what it is that your prospect or your potential sponsor is trying to achieve. So you need to find out, what are their sponsorship goals? What are they hoping to achieve from this sponsorship of your event? And this is where sponsors and events, this is the breakdown that tends to happen right at the beginning. Because events, especially smaller ones or mid-sized ones who do levels and packages and that kinds of things, they don't actually take the time usually to find out what it is that their prospect is trying to achieve from sponsorship. They just send them a bunch of levels, or they send them packages with pricing with no regard to what it is that the sponsor actually wants. And so when they get those, the sponsor looks at that and says, well, that doesn't really fit with what we're trying to do. So they just don't even pay attention to it. Where in fact, if you first have a discovery call with them or a meeting, or you find out from them what it is they are trying to achieve, then you can help them develop a strategy that's specific to them and their goals. Can they share an example of sponsorship they consider successful? This is a question that I like to ask when I'm trying to discover what it is the sponsor's goal is, so that I can create a meaningful strategy. This is a great question to ask, because if they do sponsor other events and they can share with you things that have worked, that's perfect, because then you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Or maybe they can share with you things that haven't worked so that you don't have to replicate that, so that you can avoid those misfires. How will they measure the success of their sponsorship? This is key. And this is another big breakdown that I see a lot from events, because they are not on the same page as the prospect or the sponsor as far as how they're going to measure success. So let me give you an example of this. So let's say that there's a restaurant who does a sponsorship with a smaller event. And they've had a discussion, and the restaurant says, my goal is to get people into the restaurant. I want to get people in there so that they will spend money and buy food. Okay, well, that's a reasonable goal for a restaurant to have, right? So let's say that the event comes up with a strategy that they're going to help the restaurant come up with bounce back coupons, where if someone buys a dinner, then they get a free dessert. Okay, so simple enough. We've seen it before. It's nothing super creative, but it's specific to what their goal is. So the event hands out these coupons to all of their attendees. All right. And at the end of it, they think it's a slam dunk. They're like, man, we were so successful. We got your coupon out to 2,000 people. That's a lot of people to get that coupon out to. But the restaurant says, oh my goodness, well, we only had 20 people come in. So for them, they consider it a failure. So they are unhappy with the sponsorship because they only got 20 people in. Yet you are happy with the sponsorship because you got 2,000 people the coupon. There's a miscommunication as far as how they were measuring the success. If you would have known ahead of time that they were going to measure their success by how many people actually use the coupon, then you could have furthered your strategy by including things like email blasts that remind people to use the coupon, or using Facebook posts that show samples of the menus, or perhaps you even do some sort of pre-event at the restaurant to help drive people there. If you knew that that was how they were going to measure it, then you wouldn't have misstepped you wouldn't have stopped short with just handing out the coupons. So knowing these kinds of things is valuable. This also means that if you're going to move further, you're going to add more assets, if you're going to do more, then you can also charge more. Now, do they have a budget in mind? This is a question I like to ask too whenever I'm trying to create any kind of proposal or strategy, because I have spent so many wasted hours putting together a proposal that perhaps is supposed to be they think it's for $2,000 and I think it's for $25,000. And when you misstep that much, when you go in and there's that big of a gap between what they're thinking the price is going to be and what you're thinking the price is going to be, it's very hard to come back from that. Usually what happens is the sponsor or the prospect disengages from the negotiation and says, that's just too expensive. And you can't really bring it back to their budget. So I have found that it's very important to kind of get at least a concept of what they are thinking about and what they are trying to spend. So if they will not engage with you on the price, so a lot of times they'll do this because they think that they're showing you an upper hand. So if you are not getting any kind of feedback, the way I will do it is I will have a conversation with them. And I will discuss strategies, and we're talking about what their goals are. And I'm like, okay, well, if we do this, this, and this, I think we're going to come in around, between $5,000 and $8,000. Would that work for you? And when I give them a range like that, usually I can get some feedback from where I'm at. So usually they'll say something like, oh, wow, that's too expensive. Or, oh, yeah, I think that works really well. Or, oh, that's a pretty good price. Maybe we can do some more. Something like that. Okay. So giving them kind of a range, you doing the numbers first, kind of at the beginning, will help to gauge where they're at in the budget process. So now that we've collected all this information and we understand what it is that the sponsor is trying to achieve, and how they're going to measure it too, you can start building a strategy that will drive the intended results. So let's take a look at the 5 common types of on-site activations. Now, there are other types of on-site activations, but most activations that you have seen or have participated in will fall into one of these categories. And these are very common strategies that you can implement to help a sponsor reach their goals. So the first one is sampling. Sampling is one of the most common ways that a sponsor can activate at events, and it's how a brand can get its product into the hands of new customers. This is actually one of the few things that is still going on during COVID, and it's happening a lot with hybrid events or drive-in events. So things to keep in mind about sampling is to make sure that your sponsor isn't sampling something that is in direct competition with the brand you're selling. So this may, like I said, like I have it posted in here, there's a few exceptions to this. Like if you have a food festival or if you're doing a wine and beer, festival, things like that, you're obviously going to have different types of brands that would be in direct competition with each other. But if you're doing a standard event, let's say you are doing an event where you are serving Coca-Cola, then you don't want to be sampling the brand new product that Pepsi is providing. So keep that in mind because those are important. The sampler probably will not care. It's usually the brand that you are serving and selling. Okay, so know what your state and local laws are on food, drink sampling, and what permits your sponsors will need. They range from county to state, and sometimes you don't need anything, and sometimes you need a lot. So it's kind of interesting. I've seen the gamut of it. It gets particularly complicated when it comes to alcohol and tobacco and nicotine stuff. We've dealt with all of those. And it can be a little bit confusing. So make sure you understand it and what it is that you you as an event are required to have, and also what your sponsor is required to have. But I will say that most of the time when it's pre-packaged, you're good to go, especially when it comes to non-alcoholic or non-adult samples. So food isn't the only thing that can be sampled. Keep that in mind too. You can do the sampling idea with lots of other things. I've seen sampling of sunscreen. I have seen sampling of dog food. I have seen all kinds of different sampling. So it doesn't have to necessarily be, oh, I've seen one of dry shampoo. So it doesn't necessarily have to be food. It can be anything, especially when the prospect is trying to get their product out and have people take a chance with trying it. Okay, so here's a couple of on-site activation examples of sampling. So one here is White Claw hard seltzer, and the other over here is, it's hard to see it, but the other one here is actually a Kettle One tasting. So these are two very easy kind of setup samplings that happened at the Hood to Coast event, which has about 100,000 people. Okay, social worthy activations is number 2. And the purpose of this on-site activation is to generate social media buzz. And this has become an increasingly popular activation over the last few years. So most activation brands want some element of this type of strategy. So things to keep in mind. I always say the go-to winning idea is a photo booth, a photo activation, or a hybrid of an on-site and social media contest. So if I am trying to come up with an idea on how to create something that's social worthy for my prospect, for my sponsor, I always tend to go to the photo booth. And it used to be incredibly expensive, but photo booth technology has gotten so much easier and affordable. And you can go as big and as elaborate as bringing in a green screen with imposed images that patrons can like pick out their props and do awesome pictures and videos. Or you can do something as simple as getting an app and put a photo booth app and putting it on an iPad and just taking cool interactive photos. So if you're a smaller event with a lot less of a budget, you can do that and create a standard, just a really cool like back scene or backdrop for photos. And I'll show you some examples of that. The key to this kind of activation, though, is to make sure it's easy for your patrons to share it. If you want it to be successful, you need to make sure that they can get the picture easily and that they can share it easily. So the way that most of them work now is that you'll take the picture. They can do things like scan a QR code to get their picture. They can do things like enter their email address or their phone number and get their picture directly sent to their phone. At that point, usually what happens is they'll share it on their own to social media. I've even seen some that will directly upload to social media. And a lot of times they can include the hashtag already in them, tagging it directly to your event or to your sponsor's page. The other great thing is that you can include the logo imposed in the framing or in the picture, in the backdrop itself, something like that where you include the logo of the sponsor in there. And it also creates a great social endorsement from people. So they get, every time they're seeing this, people are their friends are getting FOMO, which is fear of missing out. And they're seeing this social endorsement of not only of your event, but also of the brand that they're interacting with. So the other thing you can do is create fun places for people to take photos on their own. And if they are fun and exciting, then they will share them themselves. You can also put things like hashtag, this event or hashtag this sponsor for a chance to win or something like that. Here's a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. So this one right here, this is a green screen photo. So they went in, they took this photo, they had props, and then Firestone automatically had this pop up, and then they were able to share it directly to their social medias and then also get it on their phones. This one right here is a stand-up one where the people take the picture themselves. So you can create something as simple as this. And of course you can see Dick's Sporting Goods is on the top of this photo frame. All right, exclusive experiences, creating one-of-a-kind or exclusive experiences that your sponsors can provide to patrons. The thing that I want you to understand is that exclusive experiences, they're the one thing that is unique to your event. So it might be the same type of experience. You might see this kind of thing, like you might see a VIP lounge or a sponsor lounge or a meet and greets at all kinds of different events, but they're not like your event. So this is a way for you to incorporate sponsors, a way for you to create something new is by taking something that may be very mundane, like let's say a meet and greet, and that, because I've dealt with hundreds of meet and greets from having to implement them and manage them to being a part of them. So they're all kind of the same, right? We all stand in line for a little bit, way too long than we should. We wait for that one picture and maybe an autograph, an interaction that is probably 5 seconds if you're lucky, and then you move on to the next one. So those are pretty much the same across the board at every event. But how you make that experience different is perhaps you make it into a backstage lounge, or perhaps it's you give out something from a sponsor while they're waiting in line. Perhaps they get to wait in a reception area and try a sample, or get to hang out, do something special before they go into this. So all these different things can make it special. It's the same thing with your VIP areas, your stage viewing areas, your tasting areas. These aren't new ideas, but how you develop them and how you incorporate your sponsors into them, that's what makes them special to you. So use these exclusive experiences and tie sponsors into them. It's really a great way to do it. One of the things that we have done is used backdrops for the meet and greets. We'll include their logo into them, or we'll run videos of interviews that are done with certain celebrities or with musicians, and then we run them onto the Jumbotron and say, this backstage experience is brought to you by this particular sponsor. So think of ways that you can include your sponsors or your prospect into your exclusive experiences. Here's a couple of examples of this. So this one is a viewing deck, and this one is brought to you by a grocery brand, Safeway, which is ultimately owned by the Albertsons Company. But here it is. This one came with snacks. It came with special gifts. You can see them on the table here. And it gave them a special viewing area away from the giant mass amount of crowds. And this led people to interact with this particular brand, which is Safeway. They also did a lot of sampling, and they were able to provide dinner from the Safeway brand. This one right here is from a music festival that is doing backstage videos. So these select people won their way in, or they purchased a ticket, but this is brought to you by a certain sponsor. And what they did here is that the artists would come in and they would do interviews that would get filmed and then shown on the Jumbotron to all the other patrons out there. So they got this special experience. Unfortunately, this picture is between takes, so it doesn't show it full and at its best capacity. Now, let's talk about lead generation or data capture. Everybody has probably seen one of these, because this is probably the most important one for I would say 75% of prospects are really interested in lead generation and data capture. This is really important with automotive, home improvement, and vacation brands. They really like this stuff, and credit cards and stuff like that. So if done well, the activation usually provides something in exchange for this information, like a gift that a patron can walk away with immediately. We see the most success with that. So you've seen this. This is like you see an automotive brand. They've got their cars. You walk up, they say, hey, if you want to do a test drive, or if you wanted to, take a look at our car, you want to do something special, all you got to do is fill out this little information right here, and we'll give you a t-shirt or a hat or something like that. Those do really well. you've probably also seen them with vacation brands. So you'll go up and they'll say, hey, we'll give you a $5,000 gift card. You could win a $5,000 gift card and a trip to Las Vegas if you fill out this survey. And the thing is that if you're at an event and you're wandering around and you have time to kill and nobody's in a big hurry, these things do really well, especially if there is a specific item they can walk away with. So capturing the info through enter to win prize drawings is also a great way. So let's say you don't have the capacity to provide a gift to everybody. So create a big enter to win that can also drive people to give their information. You can help develop this kind of activation for sponsors. Like we have done this for our sponsors before. We have helped develop this for them because sometimes they have no way, they don't have the whole activation. They're not set up like maybe a national dealer brand. So maybe it's a local dealer brand. So they don't have all the pieces to do that, but you can do it very simply and help them manage this. You can also, if they do have it already set up, you can also help them out by providing prizes or gifts or specialty things like meet and greets. Now, the other idea too is instead of giving away things, you can also do activities. So patrons can sign up with their information in exchange to participate in an activity, such as taking a photo, with a cool photo booth. See how I brought it back to the photo booth? Or maybe it's to get on a Ferris wheel, or maybe it's to use the charging station. So those are other ways that you can capture data or create lead generations. And here's a couple of really simple ones. I've seen them really fancy, which I'll show you an example of. And then I've also seen them very simple here. So this one is just this is a basic iPad one. You walk up, you fill out the survey, and you're in to win. And this one's for a vacation brand. This one right here is a gas station chain out of Utah. And they were wanting people to sign up for their app. So you go in and you show them that you have the app downloaded and you got something right away. And then I think the app also gave them some sort of like a free drink or free rewards. I can't remember. All right, the next one is our last one, but it's a celebrity or influencer involvement. So brands love to be tied to celebrities, to musicians, to influencers, if they align with their goals. So if you have access to those, then this might be a great way to tie in a prospect. And they don't always have to be like your, international celebrity. It doesn't have to be a movie star. It doesn't necessarily have to be, the biggest musician out there. It can be your local, depending on what the event is. So like if you're the Strawberry Festival, then maybe it's the Strawberry Queen. Or if you have local TV anchors that are involved in your event or radio personalities, things like that. So if you can get those them involved, that tends to be something that sponsors are really into. So things to keep in mind: meet and greets, backdrops for meet and greets, contesting that involves celebrities, musicians, or influencers, private events that involve them, surprise appearances of them. You can set dress interviews, and I'll show you an example of that. But, if you're going to be doing interviews or anything like that, you can incorporate a brand by using them to dress up the set. These are all ways of incorporating types of activation. Just remember that when working with celebrities, musicians, and influencers, that you have to take into account that they are human and they may not be as cooperative as you've hoped. I have been a part of celebrities, musicians mostly, who just don't feel good, so they don't do their meet and greet. Or I have had ones where they've only done half the meet and greet, and then you're left trying to figure out how to handle the rest of them. I've felt, I've seen ones that were like, it's way too hot for us to be standing outside, those kinds of things. So it can be all over the place. Just remember that you are very clear with your sponsor that you're dealing with human beings, and that sometimes it doesn't work out exactly like we've planned. And then make sure you get the necessary approvals and contracts with working with celebrities, musicians, and influencers, and be aware of any conflicting endorsements they may have, because that can be bad too. We had one where The backdrop had a logo that was a liquor logo, and the musician at the time was endorsed by a competitive liquor logo. So for those meet and greets, we actually had to take our backdrop down. All right, here's a couple of examples of how you can use celebrity involvement. So this is a band called Home Free. And as you can see, Cracker Barrel did the set dress for this particular interview that they were doing. So that's how Cracker Barrel incorporated themselves into this, using the rocking chairs and all that kind of stuff. This one is done by Firestone, and I'm going to show you more about how they included this artist Chris Lean into their Firestone setup. But basically, you got to meet him at their activation. Okay, so let's take a look at these activations so you can see how these different events incorporated these strategies. So this case study, it included the social worthy strategy, the data capture strategy, and celebrity. And this is Firestone and a festival called the Oregon Jamboree. So the sponsor's objective was to collect event attendee information to create positive experience interacting with the Firestone brand and to capitalize off of attendees' social sharing. The strategy implemented was collected information by using an interactive activation with a green screen photo booth that encouraged patrons to share on their social medias. And then the brand worked with the festival to bring performing acts to the booth for meet and greets. Now, this one was one of those ones where they had a lot of this already set up. The brand came with an activation setup. These are the items that the festival had to help them create or build with their strategy in order to land this particular sponsorship. So the way they did this is the patrons would line up. They would take a picture right here. You can see the green screen in the back right here. They would enter their information. So that's how they data captured their information. And then they would take the picture, and then the picture would get sent to their phone for social sharing, and it would tag Firestone. All right. So then they got to come over to this other side, and they got some sort of item. I think it was like a backpack or a water bottle or something like that. And then this is a copy of the picture. You guys have seen this already. And then they could come on this side if they wanted to and do a meet and greet. So that's where that other meet and greet picture was that I just showed you guys. So they were using the celebrities that the festival had brought in order to drive people to their activation so that they could take a picture and use and have this sort of celebrity involvement as well as an exclusive experience. Okay, this one is also with the Oregon Jamboree. This is RAM, and they're using exclusive experiences and data capture. And the reason why I wanted to share this one is because this one was built for them, and the festival did every piece of this because RAM actually did have a team, but it was booked at another event. And normally that would shut down negotiations. They'd be like, I'm sorry, we can't do it. We only have one team. So it goes one event at a time. But the event came back. We were able to come back and say, hey, let us replicate this for you. Let us build something out for you that hits all of these sponsorship points that you're trying to achieve, these goals that you're trying to achieve, and we'll create something for you. So this is something that will save your money, because this saved a significant amount of money that they were going to see walk away because they had their thing booked someplace else. So the sponsors' goals for this one was they wanted to build brand awareness. They wanted to create an exclusive experience interacting with the RAM brand. They wanted to have attendees participate in walkarounds, which is like where you take a look at the car and capture their information. They want to drive people to local dealerships. Now, the event's strategy was brand awareness through marketing inclusions, signage, and on-site presence. Creation of RAM deck and backstage access branding, encourage walkarounds with chances to win ticket upgrades and RAM deck passes, and pre-event engagement by using exclusive deck passes at the dealership. So let's take a look at what it looks like. So this is the deck. It doesn't look super exciting, but this deck was built for them, okay? And if you take a look at it now, you can see how great it is. Right here, this event had about 20, 18,000. It was closer to 18,000 people in one night. So as you can see right here, this gave them an excellent view, and it only allowed for 20 people at a time up there. So it was a really cool thing for RAM to have. And then they leveraged those at the dealership through contesting, so people could get those before the event. So that's how they got people to go to the dealerships. Then they did some social media contesting with a celebrity here, Chris Lane. And then they also set dressed, which they put the RAM logo, and then the interviews were brought to you backstage access by RAM, which created that exclusive experience feel that like the audience wasn't going to get. They got to get these really cool interviews because of RAM. And then for the car part right here, you could register, as you see here, to win $45,000 to a brand new vehicle by signing up. And that's how they collected data. And then they also gave away free t-shirts and things like that if you did like a little walk around. Another one here, this one is exclusive experiences and social worthy. So this one, they weren't trying to do much except for just get exposure and to showcase something that was really cool, maybe get social media just because of the cool pictures and stuff. So this is with Hood to Coast. And all they wanted to do is to build brand awareness, to have an engaging and memorable experience. And the event worked with them to provide activation space for an operational branded pool hot tub on site, and social media marketing and email marketing to showcase this really cool experience. So it doesn't look like like right now you're like, what is this? But it's actually kind of amazing. They pulled this out, and this goes to all the different races that Hood to Coast puts on. And as you can see here, it becomes an actual pool. So as a cold plunge and a hot tub. So when the runners get done, they could come up here and hang out. They can also use this for private pre-event parties. This one right here is exclusive experiences. And this one is with Chartway, Federal Credit Union, and Country Fan Fest. This one, unfortunately, although a really great this is a really great strategy. This one didn't actually get to happen because of COVID. It was supposed to happen this year, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. So this one is to build on brand awareness, to make current members feel special, and to encourage new accounts to be open. So this is a credit union, so they want to make their members feel amazing, but they also want to get more people to open up. So the event strategy is to create brand awareness through signage, marketing, and social contests. So that's pretty standard. And then members are going to receive special Country Fan Fest perks, such as free parking, access to viewing area next to the stage, special ticket price promo, and inclusions in special contests. Creation, and then of course they created the Chartway member zone and parking areas. Okay, so this is sort of the layout of what the stage and everything looks like. So we created this area, members viewing, and would look like this. This obviously is a Zen one, so this is not the Chartway one, but this is what we were going to use and put it right here so they can see, and it also gives them covered. This is a better view of it. So this was so they got this, and then they got free parking if they were a Chartway member, and they had to RSVP, but they got access onto the deck, they got free parking, and then they got discounts on tickets. And Chartway did end up becoming a title sponsor of this festival with this plan and strategy. Okay, we're going to look at this one, which is the exclusive experiences, celebrity, and social worthy. And this one is with that Festival Oregon Jamboree again and Crown Royal. So this one, they wanted to build a brand awareness, to sell cases of product, to create a unique brand experience that involves influencers and or celebrities. And the event strategy here was to brand awareness through signage, marketing, and onstage contest. And that onstage contests are really cool and fun ways to do. Include sponsors, promotion of product sales through pre-event discounted bottle wraps and a contest, and then of course sales on site, and then creation of the Crown Royal backstage lounge that held private acoustic concerts featuring Crown products. So this is a fun one. If you have a brand that can help you do this, and you have to get permission from the artist, but this is a fun way. What we did is we took the Crown Royal thrones and put them on stage for one performance. But winners, they got to go to the different liquor stores in Oregon and sign up for a chance to win. They either signed up at the liquor stores or it was done on social media. It was tied to the brand somehow, but I can't remember exactly which way they won on this one. But the winners got to sit up on the stage and watch a show from the thrones. This is the backstage lounge. So they took a room. The funny thing about this is actually a boys and girls club, but they rented it out and then piped and draped the whole thing, and set up everything inside. And then the different artists throughout the festival would come in and do little intimate experiences. So only 60 people at a time got to do this, but they got to sample and try all different kinds of new Crown Royal products. And they also got little gift bags. And the artists would sing and perform. Then the bottle wraps is a great way to help pre-sell alcohol, because most events, you know, an alcoholic brand would really, what they're wanting is to sell as much as they possibly can. All right. We know that they're trying to sell cases, but there comes a point where unless you're going to send everybody just completely trashed home, then you need to figure out another way to increase your sales, because unless your attendance increases, like this event was sold out, unless you can increase your attendance, which you couldn't with this, then how are you going to increase your sales? Well, the way we did it was selling the product prior to the event. So these were wrapped, and they were in various liquor stores across the state. And then inside of them led to a discount for tickets to the festival. And the discount equaled the price of a bottle of Crown Royal. So they essentially got the bottle for free if they used the discount code for the festival ticket. And then this, I know it looks like it's a Coors Light serving, but they actually served Crown Royal here too. Okay, let's take a really quick look at photo opportunities so I can show you guys a little bit of different ideas you could do with photos. So here's a couple of backdrops. This one is a stand, just your own standalone backdrop. It's very simple to do, but you could incorporate a sponsor into something like this, or do something similar to this for your event. And it just provides an opportunity for people to take pictures. And when you do that, they tend to share them automatically and see how the sponsors are already in there, and you didn't have to do anything. They did it themselves. This one does have an operator. This is for Citibank, but they do have an operator here and they're managing the photo booth, but this is all digital. So it goes directly to their cell phones. This is a fun one. You set up a nice, like a cool scene that people can use to take pictures and leave them with props and stuff. And they will always share this. And this is a great one with Propel. This is a little bit on the extreme side. And then of course, I already shared with you guys this Hood to Coast one. Now, I want to just really quick share this cool video that I love, where Zappos goes up against a tech giant using simple creativity and very little, very little money. You'll see. So I just think that that is one of the funniest things, seeing a cardboard box take down the tech company. And it really proves that creativity really is what you need. You just need to think outside the box, or inside the box in that case. All right, so let's recap a little bit of what you need to keep in mind for successful activations. We're going to listen to the prospect and what their goals are for the sponsorship. We're going to build a strategy for activation that will help the prospect achieve their sponsorship goals. We're going to be creative when we need it. And then we're going to follow through, and we're going to recap with that sponsor afterwards to see if the activation was successful. So before I wrap up, I just want to share with you my new book, Sell Your Event, is on sale. We have a couple of really cool bundles that you can look at, which include a physical copy of the book, a physical copy of the companion workbook, and then a digital copy of the companion workbook, which will allow you to download all kinds of templates, guides, different worksheets, trackers, anything you could possibly think of for sponsorships. I mean, there's even scripts for your emails and everything in there. So it's all in there. If you have an interest, then you can always go to sellyoureventbook.com. All right, at this point, I am happy to take any questions. You can email me at teresa@greencactusca.com, or you can drop them in the chat right now, and I will try my best to get back to everybody.